Okay, everybody. Did my voice just crack? It has been a crazy long week. I know what you're all here for. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. I thought that today was launch day of the MacBook Neo. Obviously, so many things to talk about around this guy. And so if you haven't already, you can check out my review on my channel. I mean, we went deep with this bad boy, testing everything possible. There were even a few things that I didn't include in the actual review video. So we have that. Also, we have people that are commenting. Now, I'm running this as a person of one, so I can't actually ahead of time see the comments. But what I like to do is as we go along, just pretty much like pick out comments that you all are firing out in the live chat because I want to respond to you. And we're just gonna make this kind of a fun, free flow conversation. I have some things to show you. I have some things to talk about, but of course, the Neo is going to be at the heart of this conversation. $599 for a laptop that I think has really now, as reviews have come in, genuinely surprised people because everyone had this idea of what a phone chip was capable, even though it was Apple Silicon, A18 Pro chip, right? But everyone pretty much kind of poo-pooed it like, this computer's not going to be able to do much. So let's just say this. Some people are very vocal about that before they actually got their hands on this. And now people are like, oh my gosh, this thing is crazy. A lot of people are kind of recalibrating, reconsidering what Mac may be the right one for them. And I'm going to tell you, after doing this, I would argue that maybe 85% of maybe 80% of users would literally be fine with a MacBook Neo from a power and usage perspective. Of course, display size, storage size, type of display, and connectivity, that becomes a different conversation. But this is really incredible. So look, this is not about me, but really more about you all. So I figure let's just start jumping into some of might have been just on that MacBook Neo screen. So now I'm full screen because yeah, I did it wrong. Anyways, thank you all so much for hanging out. So let's do this. I'm gonna hit this comment and hopefully maybe we can get this started with. We've got Joe Cool 102986, and he's asking, I have an M4 MacBook Air, so I don't need the Neo, but I'm sucked into the hype and love the Neo. It's hard not to get sucked into the hype, let me tell you. I think I have FOMO. I'd like to see how long it takes for MacBook Air features to trickle down. Okay, so Joe Cool, this really comes down to which MacBook Air features you're hoping trickle down. My assumption or my thinking is that, okay, there's really maybe 2 or 3 features specifically that I would hope to see and will probably come down the line. Number one, we talk about in our review, right? Great product here. Magic Keyboard. Feels like exactly the keyboard that you're used to on your other MacBooks. Same exact size. Some people thought it was a little larger because the actual form factor or the size of this chassis is smaller, so the actual keyboard looks a little bigger, but it's actually the same size. No backlit keyboard on the MacBook Neo, right? That's the number one thing. So that's going to be important because I think that if this is really geared towards students and maybe people in enterprise and you're on the go, there's a lot of times where you're in a dark area like a cafe or you're at a library or even in your room and it's dark, and that backlit keyboard is a huge thing. Now, I'm saying, okay, I get it from a cost perspective. I mean, Apple did a lot of things to get themselves a true MacBook experience at a $599 price point. You have to remember that before this, the lowest price laptop ever from Apple was $999. Until today, it's now $599 for retail with the Neo. And then if you're in education, that is $499, at least for the entry-level model. Just to set the stage, the entry-level model, regular $599, right? That's going to be coming with a 256 gigs of storage. And then you'll have over here just kind of like the lock key. But if you bump up to $699, that comes with 512 gigs of storage. And then this is a Touch ID button. And I think that's actually pretty crucial just from a day-to-day experience, just passwords and purchases. It just becomes so easy and second nature. So I actually think like this going up to the $699 is a nice thing. And then if you're in education, you could still go to $599. You get $100 off. So those are the configurations, but you only get 2 storage options: 256 gigs at $599 and 512 gigs at $699. That's it. So it's a very specific thing. The display here is a true 13-inch display. You have something like on the MacBook Air, 13.6 inches, a little bigger, but still a 13-inch display. But this is an aluminum body through and through. It feels so nice in hand. They've actually, the curves on the edges and the corners here are even more curved than any other Mac they put out. So it feels softer. It sounds silly that it feels more approachable. I love the design. Obviously, you have the cool colors. Like we got the citrus color, which is kind of a mix of, depending on what you look at it, it could be lime, it could be yellowish, it could be neonish. It's a cool color, but you also have blush, which is more like a pink, and then you have silver, and you have indigo, which is dark blue. Indigo almost kind of looks like this background here. So I think the backlit keyboard is something that you want, at least coming out from the MacBook Air. I also would argue maybe some people, this is not crucial to me, but I definitely think a lot of people are so used to and miss MagSafe that not having MagSafe, you're always worried, especially as like a student, maybe something tripping over your power cable and it's getting pulled off. Those are probably the two big actual functional things that I'd like to see here that could really improve the quality of life. But again, they can't actually, and we know they already have this planned out for the next 2 years after this. There is a reason why those aren't features built in. And sure, a backlit keyboard would most likely affect battery life to a certain degree. So battery technology gets a little better. Maybe they bump up to a processor that is more power efficient, so that that trade-off isn't as hard. But I would say those are the two things. But beyond that, again, even just the way it is, you're really just not missing much. At least I don't feel like it. Okay, let's keep on rolling. There's a lot of comments in here, and we're gonna really try and show love because you all are so amazing here. Let's try this one. V for Vendetta 1. Folks should be shouting from the rooftops that an iPhone chip is running macOS. Okay, I love this. This is one thing that I actually mentioned to John, JK, my editor, about what I forgot to talk about in the review. The review was 25 minutes, so you can't put everything in here. Yes, an iPhone chip can now run Mac OS. And why is that so important? Well, look, we'll see if Apple unlocks this, but we know companies mimic and copy, and whether it's like copying is the best form of flattery is the best form of imitation, or imitation is the best form of flattery. My words are jumbled. I've been working all week. But now, if an A18 Pro can confidently run Mac OS, think of every other chip beyond that. Why don't we have the ability for our phone to connect to any type of display and have that switch turned on, just like DeX on Samsung? Good Lord. That if Apple really wanted to show us love, they would unlock that, because we now know it's possible, right? Our phones could literally be a walking computer, and they've really proven that with the MacBook Neo. So I love that. V for Vendetta, great insight, great comment. Is Apple going to hold out and not let us do it? Or, oh my goodness, are they going to make it like an iPhone Pro feature? Or, there's these rumors of a new Ultra lineup coming out. Will that be an Ultra feature, the ability to connect your phone to a display and use it? Come on, let's all be real. All right, let's keep on bouncing around here. Geeks the Sneak is asking, hey, I would have been sold if it at least had a 12 gig RAM option. Okay, I love this comment, and I love where this conversation can go. I think I agree with you from a longevity perspective. If Apple is really committed to this whole idea of, Apple Intelligence, and again, that still has a ways to go. We were hoping to see it in iOS 26.4, and that still hasn't happened. And we still don't know what actual finished, polished version of even the first generation of Apple Intelligence looks like, which is already generations behind what Gemini is doing and what other platforms are doing. But the reality is that now that Apple is partnering with Google, we're going to see all the Gemini stuff that you see on Samsung, all the Gemini stuff that you see on Pixel phones come to an Apple phone in their own way, and to an iPhone in their own way. But this 12 gig of RAM thing is interesting because I do like the comfort and the longevity of it. I think, though, what people mistaken, and I'm not saying you do this, my friend, is just that 8 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs of memory on a Mac is not the same as 8 gigs on a PC. And I think that we have I've been saying this for years once Apple Silicon came out, but there we're almost conditioned to how crappy of an experience 8 gigs of memory is on a PC, and the architecture and how, the CPU and the GPU have their own dedicated memory, and that's why you have video cards with this huge amount of RAM, whereas Apple, it's unified memory. So their unified memory architecture goes directly to it's a centralized spot, and the memory is shared and moved around. And then they also use virtual memory. Basically, your hard drive can also act as a storage spot for some of these things. So the biggest thing where I saw 8 gigs of RAM on here peak its ugly head is when I was using Chrome, and I talked about in my review using multiple browser windows. Oh, I don't have this connected to the display, but using multiple browser windows. Once you get around 8 or 10, you're good. But once you pass that up, you get to like 12 or 15 or 20, depending on the website you use. You know, the pages, they have to reload. It gets laggy, it gets slow. But beyond that, from a functionality standpoint, I mean, if you saw, I was able to open and confidently edit without any lag, 4-layer, 4 video, 4 audio track video project, a 15-layer video, 15-layer audio Adobe Premiere project flawlessly. Okay. The export times are what took a long time because of just the raw power behind it. But the actual functionality, we've seen other people launch like every app on the MacBook Neo, and it's been able to run comfortably and fine. So I think from a longevity standpoint, you make a good point. But I think for the person that this is catering to, the usage case, I'm not saying, I'm never one to say 8 gigs is okay because I'm a more of a pro user, but I think 8 gigs is okay in this situation, in this type of use case for this type of user, if that allowed them to hit that price point. Now, in the next few years, would I expect it to go up to maybe 12? I actually would, just because costs and, you start, as they continue to make more of these, right, the production price will go down. I don't expect them to change this design at all for the next 3 years minimum, maybe even 5 years, quite honestly. And if this can get even cheaper because of that, that would be nice. Or you throw some of those other features that people ask for, and then it becomes more expensive, or not more expensive. It stays the same price. Let's keep on looking at other comments that people are throwing out here. Wheelman 2004, let's roll. Is the MacBook Neo the most important MacBook release since the original MacBook Air? This is a great question. I'm not going to say that for every question, but you guys are asking good questions. You know how you ever, I shouldn't say it actually, but sometimes when you talk to companies, the first thing they respond to is, that's a great question. And it gives them a moment to think, but that's not what I was trying to do. Okay. So I would say from a business standpoint, this is the most important MacBook release since the Air. And what I'm talking about is, look, what's crazy is that when I was in college, I think everyone who is now more mature or grown up in life, not old, but more mature in life, would have wished we could have had something like this in college at this price point, right? I remember a Mac was just unattainable to me during those years. I had back in the day, I did a Dell PC because it was just more affordable to use. And, I got used to Windows and everything like that. And I came back to the Mac once I graduated from college because I started doing production. But during those college years, something like this, a MacBook Pro was not attainable. Even things like the iBook, I think they were around at least $1,000 at the time, right? The clamshell style ones. So the fact that this exists is huge. Now we have to wait to see how consumers respond. I think how reviewers have responded and the chatter that I've seen on Reddit, people are genuinely impressed with what this MacBook Neo is capable of. Now, if that translates over to sales, then we're going to see something. And I think Apple is really smart about this because they're being sensitive to, they understand the financial, what's going on financially around the world and how people are spending less money. So that's a win there. All right. Another win is just, it's a more affordable Mac. Think about this. This doesn't even really affect my generation as much, but if you're let's think about it. You're like a young kid and you have an iPhone, and that's really the only Apple device you have. Guess what? You're going to want to be in the ecosystem. And if this is your first entry point into a computer that then complements your phone, and then we know how the whole ecosystem just grabs a hold of us and doesn't let go, that is an incredible feat. And that's why to me, this is important. It's about the future generations of users because I've talked about it a lot before. My nieces and nephews, they all want PCs because they want a game on them, right? That's the priority right now. Apple still has not cracked that nut. They're trying. They've released a lot of developer tools to make uh, higher end PC games, console games more accessible. We saw them release one of the Assassin's Creeds. This is the Assassin's Creed Shadow. It was the Ninja version, the Ninja storyline. That that released same day as release day. We need to see more of that. For me to legitimately get excited, at least to really appeal to the young people who are just all about the gaming, you need to run like Marvel Rivals on this. You need to be able to run Valorant on this. You need to run Helldivers on this. Like that's why I own a gaming PC specifically for that. And once I did invest in it, it really became clear to me why none of my nieces and nephews want want a MacBook, A, because of the price before this came out, and B, because of the gaming aspect. Now the price is out of the issue. Everyone loves the design and the feel of it. It's just that it wasn't attainable for them. So I absolutely agree with you. I think this is the most important MacBook release since the Air. The Air became like the quintessential laptop for everyone that was cheaper but more way. I mean, when you look at that now, that seems like overpowered for most people compared to what the Neo has. This is definitely, at least purely right now in this moment, from a Mac standpoint, this has changed the dynamic of what a computer I would recommend to people right now out of the gates to say, what should be my first laptop? And I want to get a Mac. That conversation has already changed. But let's talk about what it does beyond that, right? Like, what does it mean for consumers that are not part of the ecosystem? That's probably what's more important. So I dig it. I dig it. Okay, keep on. Everyone's just firing away with these questions. I think you're all awesome. Okay, let's go here. Hey, Shav. Okay, now I'm seeing these names for the very first time. So Shavkat Rakamanov H3O. Okay, love the live stream. Again, I'm just here to hang out because I was fortunate enough to get early access to this. I know they have come out, but I've spent, I mean, basically almost a week with this thing now, really intimate with it and every in and out. So I'm just going to keep on clicking on things and hopefully these are questions that I can answer that are relevant to the audience and all of y'all that are listening here. Let's check this out. Physical_copy says, I have a Samsung phone. Will my experience differ by using a MacBook? I have a Samsung phone. Will my experience differ? Okay, so I'm assuming you're saying if you have a Samsung phone, but you want to get a MacBook, how will that be different? Well, if you've been used to PCs for a while, I mean, clearly the Mac OS, it's a different brain. I think anyone that tells you who's switched between a Windows machine, do I have that HP OmniBook? Yes. The one that I used to compare with this. We'll talk about that in a second, but a Windows machine versus a Mac, it's a different experience. You do have to kind of retrain your brain for a little bit. I would say it takes about a week or so to really feel comfortable. There's going to be times where you're still looking for things in the wrong places, but over time, I think what you will generally find is not only is macOS a cleaner experience, it's a little easier and it's a lot better looking. Now, I would argue the new move towards liquid glass with macOS has not been my favorite direction, but even at that, it's still a great experience. And look, you're kind of like the prime candidate that Apple is hoping, someone who doesn't even own an iPhone, who wants to get a MacBook, loves the MacBook experience. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to love this thing. And then is like, ooh, if this is a great experience, maybe I do want to try an iPhone, right? This is all about now these days, the technology race is more about the ecosystem war and making good and great products in that ecosystem to convince you to switch over versus, sure, you can make the best product, but let's be real here. Apple has kind of slow played some of their innovation. I'm not saying that they're not innovative, but they've taken time to release features, and they've been able to because of the benefit of them having such a strong ecosystem that people stay in it, right? And now with some of the new rulings from the EU, they are making it easier to bounce around or have better compatibility with Android platforms and whatnot. But at the end of the day, for the general consumer who is used to doing things a certain way, it's actually really hard to change ecosystems just because. So look, you make a great point just by throwing this up here. I think this is also kind of like a gateway for people that are on other phone platforms to get into the Apple ecosystem? That actually became a great question. Great question. Okay, let's go to another question here or statement. Have there been any heat issues? So Charlie Brewer 617. One of the things that if people that are not familiar with Apple Silicon, they are incredibly, they stay typically incredibly cool. The only time this thing ever got what I consider hot was when I was exporting a 45-minute video, and I think it took, if I recall my numbers, did it take around an hour and 40 minutes or so to export it on this device? Yes, I believe so. Well, I'm going to show you some of the benchmarks for people that have not aren't familiar with what happened with us in my review. You can jump on my channel if you haven't already to check out the review. But from a heat standpoint, I don't. I think also you're not trying to push this. You're not putting out like 3D exports or major files. You're just doing the normal stuff and then a little bit of photos and a little bit of video editing. But the thing is that you can do more than just a little photos. You can legitimately run Photoshop on this and not have, major issues depending on how many layers your project has. I should state that. But everything that I do today, arguably, I could actually do on this machine. It's just that exporting my videos would take a lot longer on this machine. And that's a testament to just how good it is for an incredible amount of people. So I would say, based on my experience, I have not come across any heat issues where it became a super hot plate like my Intel Mac did. There is, a fan blaring and running. I did not experience that at all. Okay, let's where's my mouse? Sorry, I'm doing this. Let's keep on going here. All right, Jordan Carson chimes in with, do you feel this will replace your iPad? This is a great question. I think I talked about at the end of my review. I think if you're a user that, let's say, 3 to 5 years ago bought an iPad and then also invest in a Magic Keyboard, the only reason why you would want to, and some people did that because they found like, oh, it's a slightly more affordable solution. But the only reason why you would want this to replace your iPad is purely because you want an actual true Mac experience. Maybe you're ready to move on, but I would say that people that have, and I'm one of them, I use an iPad on the go. So when I'm on vacation and I don't want to do any work and I just need to do email to keep in touch with things, I take my iPad with me with a keyboard. It sounds silly, and I've used this word, so don't take it out of context, but touching the screen and interacting with it creates kind of a different bond with that device, and it's a more intimate experience. I guess I did say that out loud. It just does. So there's something different that's just like, this is awesome. And then I'll guarantee you, if you go to like a MacBook, you're going to accidentally want to swipe the screen or tap the things like that happen. So I would think most people, if you have an iPad and a keyboard and you're happy with it, look, save your money. Don't spend more money just because, what's crazy? Like, people get so excited about these colors and they're like, I want a colored MacBook. That's the other thing. Color psychology, I've talked about this, totally exists. Apple has these high-end, amazing laptops, mid-range laptops. I mean, Apple's one of the best laptop makers in the game. Let's just be real. Build quality, reliability, performance, Apple Silicon transform that. And yet, the buzz around this is partially because they have cool colors, right? We've been begging Apple to create colors for pros, create more colors for Airs. Like, nah. We're going to put it on the MacBook Neo, and you're going to buy one as well. Ooh. They know what they're doing. When they're looking on that whiteboard, they know it. Apple, you know exactly what you're doing. I know what you're doing. We see what you're doing, but so you don't need it to replace your iPad, but I think there's some people that will want to do that. That's all I'm saying. All right. Tim F. Jones just said iPad. Very cool. Let's keep on bouncing around here. If I accidentally hit the same names and hit the same questions, I apologize. Just roll with me. All right. Would you put it up against an iPad Pro? Would I put this up against the iPad Pro? I think the interesting thing is the iPad Pro is so OP, right? It's so overpowered. I don't even take full advantage of what the iPad Pro does. I just like I mentioned earlier, some people buy different products because of it may not even be the power that's in it. I like the screen of the iPad Pro. I want the largest display on a tablet, which directs me purely to the iPad Pro. Those are the reasons why. But from when you say pitted against, if you're talking about performance, let's look at this because this might give you some idea or perspective of some of the performance here. So give me a second to set this up, y'all. I'm going to do a share screen here if I can. Okay. And I'm going to pick my Keynote app here. Okay. And let's see if I can get it up here. All right. And let's try and make this. Can I make this full screen? Okay. View. I'm just doing this on the fly, y'all. Here we go. Enter full screen. Let's see if it does this first. Okay, it doesn't, but whatever. Okay, so I hope you can all see this. We're gonna start up here. These are my benchmark tests. So what I do here is I run benchmark tests. Just give you a point of reference. They don't necessarily mean everything, but they do mean something, and it gives you an idea of a relationship of where a computer stands versus its other peers. So these are the standard Geekbench 6 benchmark tests, and we're talking about CPU performance. Now, if you're talking about here an iPad Pro, let's look at, it depends on which model you're saying, Kenneth, but let's look at something. I'm going to take your name off here, Kenneth, just because I know people want to see the entire graphic and it's blocking it. How do I, or here it is. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Now you all can see it. Okay, so these are scores running the test. Now, single core score is what most of us do. Multi-core score gets when you're doing more advanced tasks. So, for example, look at the MacBook Neo on the far left here, 3,567 single core score. If you're talking about a iPad Pro and the most recent iPad Pro, which is an M5 chip, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be pretty similar to what we have with a single M5 13-inch MacBook Air, which is around 4,172 for that single core performance. So that's what I guess maybe a 10% difference roughly in performance, which is not that much of a drop off or change. It's nothing significant or major. Okay. Let's go down a multi-core score. MacBook Neo on the far left, 8,913. If you look at the M5 MacBook Air, again, it probably has a larger memory bandwidth than the iPad Pro. I'm going to assume that. I could be wrong. Storage speeds most likely are probably faster as well, but from a pure processor standpoint, it definitely it almost doubles it up from a multi-core score. So that would indicate, right? Because this is, if you're really looking at this, what the A18 Pro is a chip from the iPhone 16 Pro. So that is a year and a half ago, I guess, about a year and a half old now, versus a new M5 chip. And obviously the architecture is going to be a little different, but that's just from a pure, let's say, speed standpoint. Again, these results don't mean everything, but they do indicate something. Let's look at Metal GPU performance. Right? This is the graphics card performance. You have the MacBook Neo on the far left, 30,000. And then if we scroll around to the middle, the M5 13-inch MacBook Air, again, this is a MacBook, not an iPad Pro, but similar processor. It's more than doubles that in performance. So you're getting a lot more performance. I'm not going to go to the video rendering test because that really doesn't matter, but that's just an example of what's happening, at least for talking about from a perspective of the performance there. So hopefully that helps. All right. Keep your questions coming. I know we're talking a lot about MacBook Neo. If you have things you want me to go over, please let me know. I'm just really hanging out. You guys and gals are driving this. I'm just kind of like your, what is it? Not your avatar. Sometimes I lose my words because it's been a long week, but let's just see what we got here. Okay. Piano Man Taurus 6528. Tickle those ivories. Hi, Brian. Would like to know if MacBook Neo can run standalone VSTs. I don't know that, but I'm not sure if anyone has run those in the review. So I would say, for the audio junkies, I don't know. Like, I also didn't run Logic on my machine at all. I don't use apps like that. So unfortunately, I don't know. So I'm sorry. I don't know everything. Surprise. It's actually, yeah. Okay. Do y'all think this is a big moment for Microsoft, Google, Dell, etc.? Jordan, I think I kind of talked about it earlier, and I said in my review, we have to let the consumers decide that. But from what I can tell and the feeling and the energy behind that, it's absolutely like I'd be worried if I was them, because this has the potential to really change the laptop market dynamic, especially on the low end and the entry level. And if you looked, let me bring up a couple things here. Okay, so let me see if I can do this. Okay. So here's the MacBook Neo. Obviously, this is an HP. Ooh, God, I'm balancing these things. OmniBook 5. Okay, this is a 14-inch OLED display. 13-inch MacBook Neo, LCD display, higher resolution here, same peak brightness, 500 nits. Where you start seeing the difference here, first of all, is build quality. So one of the things that I love is like the multi-touch trackpad here, right? This is an aluminum body. This is a metal body. It is sturdy. It feels light, but strong and durable and basically really modern and classy. So we have, right? I mean, I'm clicking this and it nothing else is moving. It's just the trackpad that you're interacting with. Okay. When I am dealing with a freaking, and this is again a PC at this $600 price point. This configuration of the MacBook Neo is $699. This configuration of this HP OmniBook is $675. I think originally though it was like $1,000, but it's been discounted now down to around $500, $600. Like I kid you not. That's how much this laptop was and is, and it's still being actively sold on the market. Let me try and how do I get back here? Okay. So what I'm going to try and show you, Windows 11 is also another issue. Okay. Windows 11 just feels like you're bombarded by a lot more pop-ups, Copilot action. I feel like it it feels really bloated. Windows 10 to Windows 11, I just think Windows 11 is a little bit of a disaster for me. It's usable, but it's not ideal when we're talking about an OS, in my personal opinion. I'm not throwing shade on Windows machines. I think that it's fair and objective. But here we go. The trackpad here, when you push it, literally this is a plastic chassis. The body, like the body caves in when you press the trackpad. Like, so it's just not as sturdy, so it just doesn't feel as classy. Like the screen here, a nice, great display. Just even the fact that this is a plastic joint, it's hard to show because I'm holding there. There's a lot more wobble here, so it just kind of has a, like when you look at this externally, this looks like a very solid, nice design, but it doesn't feel. It feels cheaper. It feels cheaper, whether it is or not. And then when we compared these from a speed test and performance, the MacBook Neo destroyed it. It doubled it up in most categories and completely outperformed it. And if you're talking about, I know these machines are not made to do high-end tasks, so I just wanted to really push them to the limit and see what was possible. The MacBook Neo, or sorry, the HP OmniBook running Adobe Premiere. That's why I use Premiere, because I can use it on PC, I can use it on a Mac. It's multi-platform. My project's loaded, but when I would scrub or move the playhead on all those layers of video, it chugged every time, whether it was a 3 audio project or a 15-layer video, 15-layer audio project. It chugged. Even playback, it lowered the resolution by like half on playback. It never did that on the MacBook Neo. You could not confidently edit video with that machine. You just couldn't. There's no way at that level, basic and high end. So then another advantage of PCs, everyone says, oh, the games, Steam. Well, I ran games on this, and this is using a Snapdragon X Plus chip. The games that you would want to play, like the high-end games, Marvel Rivals, Helldivers, all that type of stuff, it doesn't run on this machine. I think Marvel Rivals kept on crashing every time, and then Helldivers reduced down to like 10 frames per second, just unplayable stuff. So the gaming advantage doesn't exist here at this level. And so I didn't even show the web camera, and it's also different. The other thing, audio-wise, this is a plastic body, so the speakers here, they don't resonate as well. They're not as detailed. It sounds a little more tinny, a little more pitchy, just sounds thinner. And if you haven't been paying attention to just Apple's MacBook line, period, they have made audio a priority, and it sounds premium here. Coming from a little MacBook Neo like this, the audio, quite honestly, is going to blow you away. It has depth to it. It has detail. It's not over modulated. And also, right, it's a metal body, so the resonance, it's arguably one of the best, when you look at all its features, it's probably one of the best features about it. It has two of these firing speakers on the side to create spatial audio with a laptop on the side. They did a hell of a job with that. So $599 starting, just saying. All right, let's keep on going here. Everyone, you've been great just hanging out. I think what we'll do is if you keep the questions coming, I'll keep on taking them. I was just gonna hang out for like half an hour, but I guess y'all are hanging with me. So I'm gonna keep on doing this. You know what? I missed some questions very early on, and I feel like people are probably like, dude, you didn't get to my question. So I'm gonna go way, way, way back and just hit some random stuff and see what happens. Andy Cohen, 5768. Can I play Sims 4 on here? I could on the M1 MacBook Air. I did not test Sims specifically for you, but I'm pretty confident that Sims will play on this. Don't quote me on that, but with everything that I've thrown in it, I'm gonna guess a game like The Sims should run on the MacBook Neo, but don't hold it against me. Okay. Austin 9, watching this from my citrus-based Neo. Woo! See, that's what I love. Like today is launch day for the Neo, and so there's people that are excited about it, people that are curious about it, and you've seen all the reviews. Like, it is fun. I just feel like there's not a lot of companies out there that really general that can break through the mainstream for people to get excited about like technology coming out and being on sale. It is a different thing. All right. Andy already got a question, so I'm trying to get new people up here. All right. DQHPMP, is the Citrus Neo green like a light? It depends on the lighting. So right here, you probably think it almost looks like a little bit more of a grayish green, maybe. But it looks very like almost the best way I describe it. It reminds you of a key lime pie green. All right, key lime pie. Put that in your head. There are times where it looks a little more yellow, but it always has a green undertone. Maybe it's because of the metal finish. It is a sensational color. Like for me, one of my favorite products way back in the day was the original iPod Nano in green. I actually have it. I should have brought it to compare it. It's a little deeper green, but this gives me the feels because it reminds me of that. All right. Let's keep on going. Just hit these questions. FS454. I got to know if Mac Virtual Display is full featured or if it has reduced resolution. No one's tested that. Okay, so am I assuming you're talking about emulation if we're running parallels or virtualization or things like that? Again, I don't always know everything that people are asking, but I don't know that. And so I didn't test it on that. But to me, running virtualization on a Mac, the resources it takes, again, no one's tested it yet that I know of, but that's just not something that I even considered from a standpoint of using an entry level machine, right? Like the funny thing is when Apple positioned this device in almost all of the sessions or briefings or even like the specs they talk about, they'll talk about editing video and they'll say this can handle eight streams of 4K video or 4 streams of 8K video. And this was the first product they never did. They like never talked about it. And so I think that's really deliberate because they're not trying to get in people's heads like, hey, look, it can do video and it can do it very well. But Apple's not positioning it as, hey, this is a video laptop because they don't want people to go and like, I want to do video. I got a Mac Neo. It didn't work the way I wanted it to. This product sucks, right? So there's like shaping, almost directing the consumer for which models might make sense for them. They're not talking about this for video editing at all. And so they don't want people to be, underwhelmed or disappointed because they came in thinking it. It's much like virtualization. They're not talking about that. So I don't know the answer, but maybe that's for you to try out and check out. Okay, keep on going. All right. Sometimes I can't read these usernames and I just butcher them. It just becomes embarrassing. So, Anta Beatrua. Well, I shouldn't try, but I want to try. This is absolutely a home run machine. I cannot wait till I can buy mine. This is Apple at its finest when it makes its own silicon and does this. This is the time to buy Apple. Please trust us. I think I mentioned it earlier. I would have died to have something like this in high school or college. I would have absolutely died at a price. Even back then, inflation factored in $5.99. So what was this when I was in college? Was this like basically like a $3.99 product? People are like, wait, how old are you, Brian? You gotta look it up because Asian don't raisin. But yeah, that's crazy. This wasn't even a $4.99 product back then. It was probably like $3.50 or something. Damn, that's crazy. Okay, let's keep on looking around. Let's go here. Austin 9, I'm currently watching this video in the dark, typing on the Neo with no room lighting. Display brightness is more than enough to see the keys. Okay, so I factor that in. But there are times where the stuff that you're watching and you're doing is still too dark. So maybe my video is lit very well, thanks to my buddy JK for doing that. But yeah, no, I still think in the long run, again, I would not be surprised if a backlit keyboard and MagSafe come, not MagSafe, just a backlit keyboard and an improved processor are the two features that come to MacBook Neo second generation. They don't have to do much, or they just release this with a new chip and they make a little more margin. I don't know. They really, I don't want to sound like a simp, but this is an incredible machine for its price, especially when you look at it at the landscape of competition out there at this price point specifically. This is a freaking winner. Someone criticized me because I said, "Oh, you could buy this and it could get someone from elementary school all the way through high school and maybe early college." I actually stand by that because technology is different now. Back in the day, a computer might feel dated after 2 or 3 years. Now we're taking processors from 2 or 3 years ago and putting them into current devices that are now smaller, more mobile, more power efficient. So I absolutely will stay on that hill until I'm wrong. If you're doing word processing, email, web surfing, some photos and some video, I actually absolutely feel that this machine, if purchased for someone in elementary school, would easily last them through high school doing those things. Now, if your interests change and you want to do some more high-end coding, multimedia, gaming, that's going to change too. So where you're at from elementary school to high school is different, but I honestly believe that you could actually roll with this machine for that long. My wife's mom was here, our mom-in-law, because baby can't come to the stream, okay? Although I wish. But she was here and she saw this machine and we were talking about it, and she has an older Intel 13-inch laptop, right? Fan is loud, it gets hot, it's slow now. This is that perfect machine if you're that type of user. I think this appeals to so many people. It's pretty insane. All right, let's keep on rolling here. Is it worth it? That's my only question. Whenever I am hit by that question, is it worth it? I can tell you what it's like compared to the general landscape, but you're the one that has to decide that. I'm not here to tell people how to spend their money, but I am here to tell you if I think it's good for the value or if it's not good for its value. Like, for example, I felt the iPhone 16e last year at $599 did not bring enough to the table to warrant a $599 price point. I felt if that's supposed to be a more entry-level phone, it didn't deliver. But guess what they did this year? They doubled the storage, right? They have a faster modem. They finally put MagSafe in the 17e, which was my number one complaint. That's like a fundamental ecosystem feature from Apple and all their phones. Now I feel like that phone is worthy of a $599 price point. So for you, someone who bought the 16e because they wanted the iPhone experience, but they don't want to spend the most money, that makes sense for them. They know what they're getting. Someone spends whatever $1,200 on the highest iPhone 17 Pro and doesn't use all their features, but they just want it because that's what they feel is valuable to them. So, is it worth it? I think has always been a very subjective question. All right. Keep the questions coming in the chat. As long as they keep on coming, we'll do this until 8 p.m. So that's 17 minutes. Really appreciate y'all coming. This is fun. I love involving y'all. I'm going to try and get live calls mixed in the mix a little later. But Moldenite asked, the next version of the Neo will probably have 16 to 24 gigs of RAM, and maybe Thunderbolt might pick one up then. I don't think it'll have Thunderbolt. Only because would they put a lower tier version of Thunderbolt in it? And is Thunderbolt necessary for an entry level machine? And if that drives the costs up, I would say no. Personally, do I want it? Of course. Do I want the MacBook Neo to have everything the Pro has? Of course. But that's just, we're talking about within the confines of pricing. I think what's more important would be functional improvements like a backlit keyboard and like MagSafe connector on the power adapter. Right now, it's just USB-C. So if someone pulls it or trips on it, that might be a bad apple, right? But no, I Thunderbolt would not be a high priority for me, at least as a student or someone who's just using this as an entry-level machine. But again, I don't make the decisions. They could have it, and you'd be like, see, I told you. Brian Moldenite comes back next year on the MacBook Neo live stream and says, dude, I knew it. Okay, let's keep on going here. New question. There's 12 gigs in an Apple monitor for memory. Yes, or is it? Yeah, is it for memory? Because the new displays are using an A19 chip, I believe, for the new Studio display and the new Studio display XDR. But again, they are their own products. Just because there's memory in a display, so what? Like, again, they're trying to hit a price point here. We can always say I want new features, but there's a trade-off when you're developing a product that we don't necessarily consider think about, and they make decisions deliberately whether we like it or not, and sometimes they make a decision to hold a feature back so that feature can come in next year. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So, we'll see. Again, I talked about the memory issue. I really, for the consumer they're targeting, I do not think it's an issue, but I would like to see, at least in the next version, a little more if they really are investing in this longevity of Apple Intelligence, where I think 8 gigs is the minimum requirement, but all devices moving forward have come with 12 or higher now, except for the MacBook Neo. Okay. Does the Neo support the Vision Pro? I didn't try I didn't try that. Uh with the multi, I'm gonna guess it should, right? Like the virtual display. I don't know actually. Damn, I got. How about this? What would it require? Would it require anything chip wise that would make it more expensive? No, it has Wi-Fi 6E. It might work. That's a great question. I mean, those are two different. When you talk about is things worth it, those are two totally different crowds. You know what? I think in my next stream, I should just bring all my Apple stuff, just have it and pull it and bring it up. But that's funny. You know what? You know what Apple really needs to make? An Apple Vision Neo. Who's on board for that? Everybody would be on board for that. It won't be $5.99 though. But Apple Vision Neo, $9.99. Get on it, Apple. Get on that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Milwaukee Brewer 9264. If Thunderbolt makes it to the iPhone Pro, it'll make it to the Neo. Eventually. Eventually. I think that's a good point. I like that. Archie on Earth, this is the computer we'll get for our older grandparents who are too confused by an iPad. I think that's a great take. Absolutely. This it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense. Beautiful. Okay, let's keep on going. Hopefully I don't choose the same questions. I55J2Q, I can't even see here. OS 10 is Unix though, so a lot of reason to use Linux goes out the window. Okay. And that might be a conversation that's happening that I'm not privy to. So whatever the current iPhone Pro has will probably be in the next Neo, I guess. I don't know. Like we're not getting an OLED display in the Neo. I don't, that's this LCD split display at 500 nits is more than good enough for the majority of people. I think sometimes, not sometimes, this happens a lot. We get caught up. Like, I think it's fun to debate this because we're all techies, and I kind of have to battle this, getting caught up in the numbers versus the actual experience. And I talk about it, it's like this is a true MacBook experience through and through, right? So all it comes down to is what else do you want to do? How much more power do you want? And what type of display and storage capacity do you want that either qualifies you for this or not? If you told me, if I had no idea what this was, I wouldn't think this was a $599 laptop. I just wouldn't. I would be like, oh, maybe it's $799, $899. Damn, like knowing Apple, are they doing like a new entry level $999 laptop? I mean, of course, at the time the entry level Air was $999, but this just doesn't feel like a antiquated or compromised experience unless you feel like lower specs are compromised of what a general MacBook experience is. It's been doing it for years. Okay. Doing it for years. Let's keep on hitting this. There's 12 gigs. Okay, sorry, I already hit that one in the Apple monitor. All right. Let's keep on going. Moldenite says this could be a good entry point Mac for a first-time Mac buyer. I absolutely agree with that. The M1 Air was my first ever MacBook, and it is still rocking. So I actually did some performance tests between the Air, and we kind of looked at that earlier. Do you guys and gals, let's just have some fun. Let's take a little breather, and I'm going to go to my little keynote here, okay? And what I want to show you all is some of these. Let me get, oh shoot, where's that comment here? Show you some from a I know this is kind of overkill, but some of the level of performance that you're getting here when we talk about video exporting. Okay, so the multiple people said this is not going to be able to do any type of video editing. Like this is a low. They set the bar very low without even trying it. Which I look. I always kind of try to keep an open mind of these things before when it's something new that you haven't done before. Like keep an open mind before you do these stupid hot takes. All right, but Adobe Premiere 26.01. Again, if you can read this, 13-minute video. 13-minute video. Okay, look at these export times here, just to give you an idea. The MacBook Neo A18 Pro, 10 minutes and 22 seconds. So it's faster to export it than the actual video. I'm going to tell people that haven't been around in the video exporting game how incredible an entry-level laptop exporting a 13-minute video in less time than the actual video is. You could say as far back as 5 years ago for an Intel product, an Intel-based Mac, a 13-minute video would take 13 to 15 minutes to export. Okay, so that's 5 years ago. Now, a product like this can do it in less than that. And then we look at something as like silly as the M5 Max MacBook Pro can export it in 3 minutes and 7 seconds. That's just unreal. And this is a third-party application, okay? But you look at all these export times, this is kind of a real world of how powerful these machines are. You can see it scale up, right? But there's not much difference when you're talking about a single series. When you're looking at just the M1 line, as you go up, you gain about a minute here, a minute there each time. It's about a minute difference, maybe a minute 30 in time. When you look at something at how advanced the Max chip lineup is, it's literally by 20 to 30 seconds of differences between each model as it's evolved. And then if you're someone like, well, what about the pros? The pro chips really rest somewhere right in between those. So if you look at the M1 MacBook Air in 2020 has an export time of 8 minutes and 35 seconds. The M1 Max on the bottom left-hand corner has an export time of 427. You could probably guesstimate that an M1 Pro chip is somewhere around 6 minutes, somewhere in there, maybe 6.5 minutes even. So this is just to give you a reference. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing here just to show you how incredible and crazy and fun these things are. Final Cut Pro. This is why Apple Silicon can blow my mind, because this is an Apple native app directly taking advantage of Apple native hardware, right? We've always talked about this relationship between software and hardware. Look at these numbers, these freaking export numbers for Final Cut Pro, all right? The MacBook Neo, 4 minutes and 40 seconds on a freaking 15-minute video. That is just witchcraft, okay? That is stupid. And I'm getting excited about that number. Look down below, okay? Oh, I can't laugh. I can only laugh. The M1 Max, M2 Max, M3 Max. Freaking a computer from 5 years ago, the M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro, exports that same freaking video in 55 seconds. The M5 Max, the new M5 Max MacBook Pro, exports a 15-minute video in freaking 40 seconds. Like, this is, all y'all that are creatives are so lucky. I remember 5 years ago exporting like a 45-minute video. It would take like an hour and a half, like an hour 20 easy, like almost double the actual time, because it's just a long video with so many layers. My Intel machine would just be like sounding like a freaking like wind tunnel, and it would be super hot, and it just was ridiculous. And these things just do this like it's nothing, like it's a piece of cake. I'm blown away. All right, sorry, I'm getting excited about this, but you know what? It's fun to be around in this field for so many years that I've been able to get some context of where we used to be and where we are now, and then be able to see like, oh, where things are going. Like, it's so fun. Like, feel so blessed to do it, and y'all are hanging out with me, and we're all talking about it. Let's take a couple more questions because we're almost hitting an hour. People say, here's from Apple 1-to-1. People say 8 gigs is not enough for Chrome. Why is the tech community not on Google improving their browser instead of going after Apple with RAM? I mean, that's a good question. You know what the silly thing is? I should have done it, but again, my review video was 25 minutes long. How many tabs in Safari can you do confidently? My hunch is that it probably does better only because it's native software, native hardware, much like Final Cut Pro, just absolutely tears through it. Um, I don't know if anyone did that yet, but I know my buddy Tyler Stallman opened up like every app on the Mac and it was just flowing like butter. So eventually, look, a lot of the general population, and I say general population, meaning I am fortunate enough to be, in that little tech circle that gets early access, and I don't take it for granted. But, I would say I really tried to put this this computer through the ringer and deliver every piece of info to inform you and really do an exploration of how good this actually is, right? I wanted to hit it from every angles, from benchmarks to real world tests with apps to using it, just all the above. And so someone said, damn, the MacBook Neo is him. The MacBook Neo is him for 2026. I think we're going to look back at this year, and this is absolutely going to be one of the products of the year, arguably might be the computer of the year, and not pure based on pure power, but what it means to the industry, which is kind of crazy. So we'll see. Let's go here. People, I'm guessing this is a reaction from Jay Morris about wow, just the export times. Like, so here's a fun thing. I own an M1 Max MacBook Pro. That is what I've worked on for when I started with an Intel, but that is the machine I've worked on for 5+ years. I have not had a reason to upgrade at all. And why is that? Well, it was a fully loaded machine. It costs a lot of money. Like, this is my profession. Man, I'm blessed to do it. And it was like a $6,500 machine at the time. Yes, I used a credit card, but why am I going to upgrade every year to a new $6,000, $7,000 machine just to gain a minute in time for exports? And some people are like, don't you want the fastest machine? Like, it's already freaking fast. And I sometimes like to get a cup of coffee or hot tea or eat some ice cream and just relax my brain after standing in front of a machine for freaking like 10 hours with my eyes just bloodshot. Like, there's some practicality. Like, you don't always need the fastest thing, but damn, can I build it faster? Can I be creative and have fun with it? Yeah, like the speed, we are at a level where you can export a video that's 15 minutes in under 5 minutes on a freaking MacBook Neo, and it works. It works. It's crazy, y'all. Sorry if I'm getting juiced about this. I just think like we're so lucky to live in this time, and for those of us that can afford these truly luxuries in life, like, and be able to enhance our lives with it, that's awesome. All right. Rafael Casaveras Valderrama, you just went to town with that name, bro. I love it. Does it get hot when doing heavy work? I mentioned how it got a little warm, but nothing that stood out to me. The hottest machine I've ever had was my Intel-based MacBook Pro whenever I was exporting a video that was more than like a 12-minute video. That thing would get so hot. I would even direct a fan to aim at it to keep it cooler. Like, that's how hot it got, right? So saying, does this get super hot or any hotter than any MacBook Air has? No. I think it's just like that. It's that good. All right, all right, you guys better hit me hard. I'm going to take the next 3 questions and we're going to go home. We're going to call it a night. All right. Joseph _56 says, in the past, I thought you reviewed into fanboy territory. This review was excellent. I walked away impressed by the Neo and felt like you showed the counter argument well. Congrats on good work. Joseph, thank you. Now, look, I think a lot of people think that I lean heavy towards Apple because I'm in the ecosystem. Yes, Apple invites me, but I would argue I'm one of the more fair people. I really, the great thing is, like, this gave me an opportunity to stack it up against a similar price product and really explore that and dig into it. I'm going to tell you, like, these benchmark tests that I do, I run them 10 times, which takes a lot more time because there's a fluctuation 5 to 10% of the score. I really want to get a confident score. With these video exports, I'll export them 3 times. And if the result is within a few seconds of each other, I stick with it. If there's large gaps in disparity, which is very rare, to be honest, then I'll do it a few more times. But overall, think about this. Like, I exported a project. I think the HP OmniBook took like over 3 hours to export one of the projects. And I just had to like let it do its thing. I couldn't go to sleep. Yeah, right. You had to like let it go through its process. There's like a lot of just sitting around waiting and just letting it do things, but I want to give you all the most information that you can make the most informed decision that you can. But thanks for appreciating it. It was a lot of hard work. I mean, there's been some fun. I feel like the best reviews are where, unfortunately, Apple doesn't give us the most time, but you have to hit it hard and just explore as much as you can. And I think that when I say they don't give us the most time, it's like, oh, here's the product, we announced it, here's 5 days to review it, and here's five other products. Like, I wish there was a little more padding, but again, I did a crash course, and I don't think I could have added maybe a couple more things, but I really don't think I missed anything crucial. All right, Kyle Addy, thoughts on when Apple updates the Mac Studio to the M5 Max Ultra? I know you are laughing. I can't wait when Apple updates Studio. You know what? Well, we look at some of these results right now. This is what I think the most exciting thing. Let me just go back to the screen real fast. This is why you should be freaking excited for a potential of a Mac Studio, which I believe is coming out this year. Let me take your name off here real quick. All right. Let's look at this number here. Whoops, sorry, where I'm at. Mouse. Thank you. Okay. Adobe Premiere, third-party program, 13-minute video. Look at the far freaking right-hand corner. This is third-party software. M2 Ultra Mac Studio. Exported that thing in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. What? An M5 Max, okay? An M5 Max today, right next to it, 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Like, what is an M5 Ultra going to do to that number? Is it going to be like a minute on third-party software? Like, I can't even use the bathroom that fast, all right? It's obscene. So then, if we look at like Final Cut Pro, I changed the slide here, a Final Cut Video Pro export, okay? The freaking M2 Ultra Max Studio, 37 seconds on a 15-minute video. So, are we talking about like 20 seconds when an M5 Ultra Max Studio comes out? Like, there's a point where I look at the landscape, and I think what's interesting is people, I don't recommend it or talk about it all the time, but I have, and people don't resonate with it. Like, I think one of the most important things that you can do to save money is when a new model comes out, and if you have a budget, everyone wants a new product, all right? Everyone wants to open up that box. It's mine, it's new. But depending on where you're at financially, look at refurbished products from Apple, all right? The Apple website, if you type in refurbished, these are products that have been what they call like reconditioned. Essentially, let's say maybe a part was swapped out or they replaced the screen or display. The thing is that the warranty on this is exactly the same as the warranty of a brand new product. So you can find, like when the M5 Mac Studios come out, my man, I'm guessing there might be, it's been a while, but there probably will be some M2 Ultra Mac Studios refurbished for like $500 less, maybe even more, on that Mac Studio M2 Ultra price. You do not need, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know what you do. You might make like crazy Hollywood films. Even at that, they're doing it on an M2 Ultra Studio today. Okay. Or, that's all you need. So I really encourage people, like, I've seen some comments, oh, don't get a Neo, buy a MacBook Air with an M3 that's refurbished for like $750. Yes. Like, I'm all about that. So there's other ways to approach this. I think I've always been trying to find bargains and stuff. And because I review products for a living, I tend to obviously go cutting edge. But for example, when I finally, after 7 years of being independent, I finally got some help within the past year. I went to Apple Refurbished to get an M3 Max MacBook Pro, and it was like a good $1,000 cheaper or more than its retail price. And an M3 Max MacBook Pro is a freaking beast, even today. So, at every level, think about refurbished. I think it's a great option. Opinion on downgrading from a 17 Pro Max, this is phone, to 17e. I love this. People are throwing out other questions. Why not? What do you do with your phone? The only phone thing that I like, just from me personally with versatility, is I like having an ultra wide camera because I can do some more creative shots. And especially doing video, the ultra wide comes in handy when you're doing stuff up close. But the way that you use your camera, you'll know if you're good with that single lens main camera, and you're going to save a lot of money. It's lighter, right? there's something to be said. Like my phone of choice, and I've been rocking with it since day one. iPhone Air, iPhone Air. This is a product that got me excited about. Ooh, Apple is really caring about design and wants to make some more cutting edge stuff. Once you put an ultra wide in this camera, I'm telling y'all, ladies and gentlemen, game over. Game over. All right. I love this camera. I know its limitations. I still get through a day with the battery based on how I use it. I just wish it had an ultra wide. I know they're freaking holding out on that ultra wide. I bet you they are like, no, we'll just do it in like the next generation. And this will be quite the phone. Oh, I also don't put a case on it because the edges have this kind of grippiness to it where it sticks in your hand and it's never slipped out, where, you know, some of that smooth titanium or aluminum finishes, it's super slippery. This is not slippery. Like, watch me drop it on camera. I won't. Okay, let's I'm gonna go to the last comment, the most recent one. We're gonna wrap it up here, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Tommy Pickles 9064, we're sending off to you. I love my 16E. I got it new for $50 from Boost the day it came out to Boost Mobile. So, you know, we're talking about deals. We're talking about like value, and look for it. There's so much value. I think they should call the iPhone 16E, or I think they should rename that series the Neo. I think they should completely create a budget line, call it Neo. They could have done it with the 17E, but I think they didn't want to take the thunder out of a new MacBook. But maybe lean into that Neo name. We you know, does it mean new? What does it really mean? New entry level option. Does it mean Neo from the Matrix? Are we in the Matrix? Is this a blue Matrix? These are questions that we really need to ponder. So it's been a joy to hang out with y'all. I'll work on seeing if I can get some live call action going on next time. I love, you know, I'm so grateful for you all to come and hang out and spend some time. But the Mac Neo is here. Who's saying a bad apple? Why is Pheasant, just like as we leave, saying that's a bad apple, bro? That's bad. We're leaving on a high note. Or maybe he's sad that we're going to say bye-bye. I'm going to take it in a positive direction. Okay, everybody. Have a great night. Take care. Thanks for hanging out. We will continue to try and do these when I have the time and the brain power. But MacBook Neo, I'm going to say it. I don't like saying this. Potential game changer. And I think it is. All right. Okay, everybody. Take care. Be good. Be safe. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace and love. We'll see y'all. Bye.